Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I am Allison Schaberg, Consolidated Planning Group, and today we're talking about planning for special needs, and we appreciate you guys taking the time to be with us here today. Meredith, why don't you give us a wave? I have Meredith Haynes on with us today, and she's with CPG, and she's going to be monitoring our chat box today for questions, and we'll be kind of posting. She'll be reading your questions. We just ask that you put your questions in the chat box as we go along. We're going to answer just as many questions as we can. So just to share with you a little bit, I see that we have some people that have been with us on in many different presentations. Consolidated Planning Group is a special needs financial planning firm. And we really custom design plans for people based off of their needs, wants, goals, based off of their specific situation of their special needs child. And we spend a lot of time in the education world of educating families on things that you need to be aware of, maybe some roadblocks out there as it relates to special needs planning, some ideas and things that you should consider as you're looking at your overall plan for your family. So we're excited that you're here with us today. Again, you guys are muted at this time. And if you have questions as we're going through this presentation, please, again, just put them in the chat box and we'll get to just as many questions as we can. And this presentation will last no longer than till 1 o'clock. So if you guys are planning, or if you're on a lunch break and you're trying to make sure you're back on time, that's kind of an update on that. And this is also completely recorded. So if you do have to jump off and you can't get back on or what have you, then we will also we will have that recording, and you can get that. And we also have a YouTube channel for all of our previous presentations that that we've had in the past, and so you can kind of peruse those and see some of the ones that you guys have missed. Okay, we seem to be having some slight issues, so bear with me as I get right back. Okay, there we have it. Um, so so basically, when it comes to special needs planning, where do we get started? We're hearing that a lot, and where should we get started? What do I do? What are the steps that I need to take? And when it comes to our plans and where we are, um, it kind of depends on where you are in your journey. So when it comes to the journey, we've got people that are on here that have a newly diagnosed child. You might have a child that's 2 or 3 years old, or maybe even an infant, and quite honestly, you're a little overwhelmed with the diagnosis, and you don't even know what you don't know yet. So you're just trying to gather all of the information that you need. And then I also see, and I see from the people that we have on here, that we also have some veteran parents here that have children that are over 18, or that are on the brink of being 18, and everything changes at that point. And what does that look like, and what do I need to do? So basically, first things first, we really, suggest that you work with a special needs planner to help you formulate your plan. When it comes to special needs planners, or just kind of an overall generalist financial planner, what do you need both? Should you have one or the other, or why? I mean, so those are some of the questions that we get on a regular basis. So a generalized financial planner, they have all of the licenses, securities, insurance, and all of those types of licenses. And they're very smart and brilliant, and they're good at finance. But when it comes to special needs planning and the nuances and the things that we have to watch out for as special needs parents, they oftentimes don't know those things, and oftentimes they make mistakes. And it's not intentional. They're not malicious or anything like that. They're just mistakes because they're not specialized in that. Okay. So when it comes to a special needs financial planner, again, they do the same things that a financial advisor does, but when we're making recommendations and we're talking to you about these types of things, we're keeping in mind benefit eligibility for your child in the future. we're keeping in mind things like having money in the right buckets and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. So when it comes to planning, the first things first are gathering all the necessary planning documents. Okay, what do these look like? These are wills, trusts, healthcare power of attorney, any type of insurance products that you have in place, such as life insurance, disability, any type of investment products, annuities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Why does this matter when it comes to special needs planning? And the reason it does is because as parents with special needs kids, we're looking at a couple of things. Number one, whether you're single or you're married, we're looking at a possible retirement of 25 to 35 years ourselves. How are we going to fund retirement for 25 to 35 years for ourselves, and if we're married, for both of us? And then if we have a child that might need care for the rest of their life, it's almost like a third retirement, a second retirement if you're single, a third retirement if you're married. So having the money from all of the different buckets, whether it's retirement plans, savings, trust, things like that, it all ends up coming together. And when we're putting a special care plan together, we're taking into consideration both goals of I have to be able to retire and retire comfortably. I need to provide for my child. I need to have peace of mind that when I'm gone, that things are going to be okay. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to develop a letter of intent. And some of you, I know a lot of you are on here that have heard our presentations before, and I'm really glad you're back. But a lot of the stuff that we talk about on here is a lot. Okay, so if you can take 1 to 3 things away from this presentation that you can start implementing, good for you. And after that, just come back and hear this presentation as many times as you need to. So you're okay there. So what is a letter of intent? I like to also call this a family love letter. Okay, this is mom or dad who cares for this special needs child. Everything that you know about your child. So if I don't know you, this letter of intent of yours, I should be able to pick up, and I should know who your child is, when they were born, where they were born, what are their primary diagnoses, what are the medications that they take, what are the names, address, and phone numbers of all of the physicians that treat them. What if they have a rare condition, what is it? And where can I get more information about this? This is what makes the child tick, right down to their favorite food and the things that they hate, to their bedtime routines, what they're allergic to. It's basically everything. Without speaking words, it's on this paper. Someone should be able to pick it up and know what you know. And sometimes you have forgot what you know because you're on autopilot. You do this day in and day out. It's like trying to put this document together is it's a lot harder than what you think. So just so you guys know, we do have a template for this. We do have a form fillable PDF. You can develop your own on a Word document. And we recommend that you update this at least twice a year, but especially if things are ever changing quickly with your child's condition, you want to update that, as frequently as necessary. But then once you develop this, moms and dads, tell somebody where it's at. Not just develop it and have it and then nobody knows where it is. Share it with somebody, let somebody else know. The people that you should share this with is the caregiver. This is a successor caregiver. If you have your sister listed as as future guardian, if something were to happen to you, then your sister should have a copy of this. So just think about that. And again, give yourself some grace as you're working on this. Say, I don't have one. I'm going to get this done within the next 3 months, and you can visit it, work on it a little bit, come back to it, visit it again. You'll think about it, and then you'll say, "Oh, I forgot to add that. That's important." And so just get that done. And I've seen some of our veteran parents that have children that are older. I've seen some of these be crazy amount of pages, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, so just think of it that way. And then also, when it comes to planning, what I want you to think about is your vision and how you hope things will look for your special needs child in the future. So we hear all the time, I'm hopeful that my child will live independently. There's no way my child will live independently. my child is 6 and, the doctors say that he won't, but I'm seeing really good, progress, and I can only imagine what it's gonna look like when he's 20. So, you know, let's what I guess I think that the old phrase of let's plan for the worst, we're gonna hope for the best and we're gonna plan for the worst. And if we plan for the worst and the best happens, then guess what? You have a much richer retirement in front of you. Okay, so we plan for the worst, and you end up using those assets in retirement because you absolutely just didn't need them. I think nobody's going to complain about that. Okay, so how will my child's care be funded? A lot of things when it comes to special needs planning, I think a lot of the confusion starts coming in when we start talking about the state and federally funded programs. Um, so when we're talking about SSI and Social Security, so one of the biggest things when it comes to special needs planning is maintaining your child's eligibility for social benefits. We're mainly talking about SSI. So a lot of the families that we work with, they're confused by this, okay? Especially if they have older children. And the reason they're confused by this is we have older children and we've never been getting anything all along. So they didn't know, they may not know that they should apply when the child turns 18. So let's talk about SSI for a minute. So SSI, supplemental security income, it's a needs-based program. It's a means-based program. Okay, so means-based means it's based off of your assets. Okay, so if you basically, when your child is a minor under age 18, it's based off of your assets, not the child's, right? So the bottom line is with SSI, if you're married, you have a child under 18 that is disabled, if you have assets more than $3,000, then you don't qualify for SSI. That child does not qualify for SSI. If you have assets more than $3,000, you can have one house, one car, and assets of $3,000 if you're married. Okay. If you're not married, you can have one house, one car, and assets of $2,000. And it's not one car per person, per spouse. It's one car per household. Okay. So that is why so many people with minor children with severe disabilities are not qualifying for SSI, and they get the denial letter and they're frustrated and they never apply again. But what happens magically when the child turns 18 is it's based off of the child's assets, not yours. So even though the child still lives with you and you claim them on your tax return and your child's going to continue to live with you, when they turn 18, it's magically based off of their assets. And guess what? They have none. So now they qualify for SSI. So this is the eligibility that we want to maintain for that child. And right now for 2021, it was 783 2020 a month. And now for 2021, it's 794 a month. So once a child qualifies for SSI, then they also qualify for Medicaid. Okay, so one of the things that we hear a lot about is what about Social Security? And sometimes people call SSI Social Security, but that is incorrect. So Social Security is also known as SSDI or Social Security Disability. And often there's confusion because our kids are disabled. We think that they should qualify for Social Security disability because that only makes sense, right? Because they're disabled and it's disability. Well, the Social Security program is based off of working credits, right? So you build Social Security disability benefits by working. Okay, so these minor children with disabilities are not working, so they don't necessarily qualify for SSDI. So there are some exceptions, and I don't want to like overwhelm people with all the SSI and SSDI because we have a lot of meetings about this, specifically SSI and SSDI. But basically, a child can qualify for Social Security or Social Security disability as well as SSI if one of two things happen. A, you or the child's father is retired through the Social Security Administration, RSDI, or B, you or the child's father is already considered disabled through the Social Security Administration, at which time The disabled child would be eligible for 50% of your retirement benefit. So if you take benefits at age 62, it would be based off of 50% of that number. If you take your full retirement age of age 67, or for some of you on here, it might be 66 in a few months, then they would be entitled to 50% of that benefit. And then after 2 years, they're qualified for Medicare. So sometimes we hear the terminology of dual qualified, and what they're speaking of is that they're getting SSI and SSDI or RSDI, both Medicaid and Medicare. So it's just really important to know these things. On the Social Security side, or the Social Security disability side, upon death. So your child, once they're an adult over age 18, they're considered, they call it a DAC. So the Social Security Administration calls it a DAC, disabled adult child. So, and if you pass away, you have a disabled adult child, then your disabled adult child will be eligible for 75% of your Social Security benefit for the rest of their life. So it's just, so all of these things, when it comes to funding care, SSI and SSDI is not going to be enough to fund the care for your child, but it will make a huge dent in it, right? So we want to preserve our eligibility, and we can make a few mistakes along the way, having money in the wrong buckets that will prevent your eligibility for SSI or disqualify you. And that's what we're trying to make sure doesn't happen. So another place, so basically when we were talking about the $2,000 and the $3,000 assets that you can have for SSI, any assets above that would need to be in a special needs trust or an ABLE account and for it to not be counted. Okay. So there are places that you can have more than $2,000 or more than $3,000 assets to the special needs child. Obviously, we're going to need more money than that to fund their future care. But the way you do it is through a special needs trust and or an ABLE account. So one of the things that, that people say is like, okay, well, I've saved up for retirement, but honestly, I'm going to need those assets in retirement. I don't know how we're going to fund future care. So I'm going to do what I've always done all along. I'm going to pay for my child's care while I'm alive. And, but I don't know what happens when I'm gone. And so, true, there are very affluent people that have millions of dollars in a special needs trust for their children. That's true. That's a fact. However, many people fund their special needs trust with life insurance. So they do what I said. They've been paying for their care, for their child's care all along. They're going to continue to do that even in retirement with retirement assets. They're just paying their regular bills like they normally do. And then upon death, a life insurance contract, the beneficiary is assigned to the trust. And so that is how the trust is funded. Meredith, I see we might have a question.
Yes, we have a question. So this person is a teacher and would like to know, does my child qualify for the TRS benefits after me instead of Social Security?
So I think what they're asking, okay, so there's a windfall elimination period, and that's a whole, I think we could have a whole presentation on the Social Security windfall elimination thing. So the windfall elimination, when somebody is TRS, then there is a deduction for Social Security. So like you might like pull up your Social Security statement, and then you have, this particular benefit, but then your pension from TRS is this amount. So there's an offset. So it might not necessarily be zero, but it's an offset. So as it relates to TRS, I think you have to ask TRS about what will continue. I do know, I have seen from some pensions, the beneficiary that you can have a beneficiary on your pension. One thing that we have learned, well, I've seen in the past, and they may have changed it, is that I think once you retire from TRS, I'm not sure if you can change your beneficiary. I think one, or maybe you can't have multiple beneficiaries. I'm not really sure what the deal is. But one thing and we're going to talk about this in a moment, that you need to be super, super aware of is if TRS or whoever is going to continue benefits for your child, it is imperative that those assets go to a special needs trust, not to your direct named child, because it going directly to your named child will automatically disqualify them for benefits. So I'm not sure if I answered your question. There is a windfall elimination period. You can elimination thing through Social Security that you can look at, and there's all kinds of controversy on whether they're going to get rid of that or not get rid of it. It's not gone yet. I'd love to see them get rid of that. But if your benefit is reduced through Social Security, so if you're at age 67, as a result of the windfall elimination thing, that you're getting a lower benefit amount, then I think that lower benefit amount will go to your child. The other thing that I wanted to tell you, because I get this question all the time, is that as a worker, if we delay taking our Social Security to age 70, it's a much higher benefit payout to you. But delaying that benefit to age 70 does not increase the benefit to your child, because it's based off of full retirement age. So if your full retirement age is age 67, your full benefit is age 67, then your child is entitled to 50% of that. So those of you that are thinking of delaying to 70 because you're thinking that for the life of your child is going to have a higher benefit, it's not really. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, so
And
Meredith, we have
Allison,
another comment.
yeah, very related. What if you have both TRS and Social Security?
So, that's where it starts getting convoluted. So there's still an offset. So if you have TRS and Social Security, there still is an offset, and there is no perfect way. We have kind of gone through the process of, being, Social Security specialists or certified in Social Security, but we're not Social Security. Okay. So when it comes to that, the very best thing that I recommend that you do is schedule an appointment with the Social Security office. Go ahead, the TRS, they take their sweet time in getting you a packet. Okay. So you can go online or you can call TRS and you can order a retirement packet. And what I recommend is ordering 2 or 3 dates of, what if I retire this date? What if I retire that date? What if and then I believe the last I checked, the TRS takes 60 days to get you that packet in the mail. And it's usually not quicker. So if you haven't requested your packet, go ahead and request your packet. And while you're at it, go ahead and call the Social Security Administration and schedule an appointment. Call your local office and schedule a phone appointment. They're not meeting face to face right now, but sometimes these phone appointments are anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks out. Okay, so if you happen to call somebody on a good day and you get an appointment the next day or the next week, you hit the lottery. Okay, that's not how it works. So go ahead and get it on the schedule. As it relates for kids and applying for SSI, you can apply the month of their 18th birthday. You do not have to wait till the day after their 18th birthday. You can schedule your appointment for the month of their 18th birthday. And again, if you know your child is turning 18 in July, I would go ahead and call in April and get it on the schedule for July. Don't wait till July to call, because you're going to be disappointed when it's 2 months or 3 months before you get back in there. Also, for people that are having issues with the Social Security Administration right now, they are working, but they are working from home. We've been told that don't mail your documents, because the timeline of them getting them is pretty slow. We have been told that faxing your documents into the local office. So if you have a representative that you currently work with, they have a fax number and they have like a stream of what you can do to get it to them. So you need to contact your representative. If you don't have one, you need to get one. And then you can direct your documents, your important documents, directly to that person by fax. And we have definitely had more luck with that in the pandemic. There seems to be no insight with the pandemic, and so there is no timeline of when the actual physical offices for Social Security are going to open back up. And you also can apply online for benefits, and then there's kind of a follow-up procedure. You can expect, if you're applying for SSI for the first time, you can expect that it's going to take, well, let me tell you, there is a whole list of slam dunk diagnoses, like Down syndrome is one of them, for instance, that you're just approved, like an auto approval. Okay. But you can expect that this process is going to take 3 to 6 months. Now they will go back and back pay. Okay. But you got to put your patient's hat on, and you got to understand that this is going to take some time, and just really plan on that. And then the other thing that I always tell families when it comes to Social Security, SSI, Social Security Administration, go ahead and start a Word document now for your dealings with Social Security. Every time you call them, who did you call? Who did you talk to? What did they say? What did you say? What documents did you submit? What was agreed upon? What do you understand? Because the communications are a lot. You get a lot of letters, the communications are a lot, and over time, over years, you don't remember, and it's convoluted. So keeping that all in one place in a Word document that you can go back to or reference to or send to Social Security if you need to, is good advice. Okay, one more question, and then I'm
Allison,
going to move on.
yes. If you claim Social Security at an earlier age, like 62, will your DAC also receive reduced benefits at 75% for life when you pass away?
Yes, but it's based, so the answer is yes. So if you claim benefits at age 62, and sometimes there's like smart ideas of doing this, like one person claims benefits at age 62 while the other person waits till age 67, like in a married couple, and then you can switch the child to the other person later. So it would be 50% of the benefits at age 62. So if you claim early at 62, they're not going to get 50% of the age 67 benefits. Okay. And then if you claim early at age 62 and you pass away, then they'll be eligible for 75% of the age 62 benefits that you took. So again, at age 67, it would be 75% of this age 67. Is that okay? All right. So transition planning, and when do I need a special needs trust and guardianship? So I like to call these words buzzwords, whatever you call them. It's like when you're working, if you have a special needs child, if you're working in special needs, whatever, these are things that we hear over and over and over and over again. We hear about the special needs trust and guardianship because we kind of semi know that we might need that, but then we don't necessarily know how to get it, or when do I need it? And how does this all work? Okay, so a special needs trust that we mentioned earlier is going to preserve future eligibility for social benefits while providing resources to your special needs child. So it's gonna, this is where it's at. This is so when we have grandma and grandpa, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but when we have grandma and grandpa have lots of money and they love your special needs child, of course it's their grandson, and they want to leave some of their money to your child, and it's a great idea and it's a great thought. But what grandma and grandpa don't know, unless you told them, and unless they're attorneys, and even then sometimes they still don't know, is that we can't leave it to little Johnny directly. So this is what we were talking about. So sometimes grandma and grandpa don't even tell you that they've accidentally left a lot of money to little Johnny and to Johnny's name. So this is where, as parents, we have to educate our other family members about that. So if they are planning on leaving money to our special needs child, that we explain how it is done properly, and we can help you with that as well. Okay, so guardianship. So you have a child, he's 16, do you need guardianship? The answer is no, you have guardianship. You are the guardian of your child prior to them turning 18. So guardianship is something that if you have a child that is going to have care needs for the rest of their life, this is a child that has an intellectual disability, they have an IQ below 70, and this is not all inclusive, okay? But this is like maybe a good track to run on. They don't make decisions for themselves. You will always make decisions. They're nonverbal. There's so many different categories where it could fall into guardianship, okay? guardianship can be applied for 6 months prior to the child turning 18. So you can start that process. I suggest you do 6 months prior to them turning 18. And the reason I suggest you do is just because courts are backlogged. They are doing Zoom meetings and things like that now, but with the pandemic, courts have been backlogged and stuff like that. So if you didn't do it, so I always get that question, well, I have my son's 22 now, what can I still do this? And you can. So we have whole presentations on guardianship and what do you have to prove? There's a guardian ad litem. You have to prove that the child needs guardianship. I mean, there's all kinds of things. It's not a horrible process. It is a process. But in some people don't need guardianship. Okay. So some people have high functioning autism kids. They're really smart and they might be, I hate to use the word late bloomers, but brains are not fully formed until they're age 26. Okay. So if they're ADHD, they have autism, then, there may be some delays. So again, that's that category where we're still hopeful. The kid's smart. He has some challenges. There's some executive function issues and things like that. So sometimes, guardianship isn't appropriate, but supported decision making is. Okay. So other families have children that have disabilities that has not affected their mind or their intellect or anything like that, but it has affected them physically. Maybe they go in and out of the hospital. Maybe they're on a ventilator. There could be any of those things. Some in those situations, maybe it's a power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney and a power of attorney. And so, what we always say is work with a qualified attorney to prepare these documents. I am not a proponent of do it yourself on any of these kinds of things. Okay. We do make referrals to qualified attorneys that specifically work with special needs. Their prices are reasonable. We know they're honest. A lot of them have special needs children themselves that have aged out and they've had to go through this process, directly themselves. So this is not the legal wizard or legal Zoom or anything like that. I want to stress this. There's some things that you can skimp on and save money, and there's other things when it comes to special needs. Do not skimp. Do not do it yourself. There are specific guidelines. I attend a UT special needs planning conference, a law conference, and Social Security comes there and beats us to death about what has to be in the special needs trust in order for it to qualify as a special needs trust in the eyes of Social Security. So honestly, sometimes there's a lot of great, really, really great attorneys out there, but they're not special needs. So like we were talking about financial advisors and special needs planners and those types of things, you want to work with an attorney that really works with special needs because you want to make sure that you have that language in there that really, really matters. Okay, so Meredith, do we have a question?
Yes, we do. If you have guardianship obtained before supported decision-making came into Texas, how would you proceed to obtain SDMA?
So if you wanted to, you can change. That's a great question, and we get that one a lot. You can change it. You just need to, meet back with an attorney. And that's another thing. So you might need guardianship. The child turns 18, and clearly all the signs point to that you need guardianship. But by age 25, the child is thriving, he's doing great. And maybe the supported decision-making, his brain is formed more, things are going well, and maybe you transition to supported decision-making. Or maybe you start at supported decision-making and you change over to power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, or what have you. But yes, changes can be made. They are often made. And it could go the other way too. Maybe you had a supported decision-making agreement in place and something happened. Something changed with their health, something changed with their mental health or their well-being. We see a lot of mental health decline in late teens and early 20s, especially in boys, is when schizophrenia is diagnosed. So it's like something maybe you had never seen before. So we can also see where it was supported decision making, where it moved back to guardianship. I see some more questions, Meredith.
Yeah, they were asking about how to know who to go to for special needs attorneys, and I already said we'll send some information out to everyone. Also, there was one question prior, if you don't mind going back to Social Security. Is there a way to check on their status?
That would be nice, like a little website that you could,
like a
yes.
link or a phone number.
Yes, no, that is a great idea. You should create that. So no, you call the local office and you get the runaround, honestly. And sometimes, I would say in dealing with, and I use the word dealing, it sounds horrible, but in dealing with the Social Security Administration with my own child, it is frustrating. And like I said, you've got to put your patient hat on. You've got to know if you go in already, expecting it to be frustrating, then you're not disappointed when it's exactly that way. And trying always to keep calm. So like I kind of tell myself that going in, so that way I'm calm. I say what I want to say, kind of get through what we need to get through without any emotion involved in it. But you're just so frustrated. I mean, I've had an ongoing, issue that literally has been going on for 2 years. It's never ending, and it's exactly where it is, and they're working on it. So anyway, so that does happen, but you can call if you find out who your representative is, like you're assigned to somebody and they have an extension, and you can leave them a message directly and ask them to call you back. I have had some really, really frustrating representatives, but I have to tell you, I have equally had some very, very wonderful, really educated people at Social Security Administration. What I have found is that the turnover rate there is high. So when I find somebody really great, the next time I call, they're gone, which is disappointing. So, again, just be patient and call the local office. So, my local office is the Stancliffe office in Houston, and I have to tell you, they're a very frustrating office. I've heard other things like so if you're just starting out, I mean, you pick whatever, you can go to whatever office you want to. So, there's offices on the north side, on the Woodlands, and other places that they say are better. There is one, I guess it's on the way to Galveston. I'm trying to Angleton office. They say really nice things about that office. So if you haven't started, you might do a little research in some of your mom's groups to see who has had really great success with a particular local office, and maybe start with them. Okay, Meredith.
I think that's it. Someone's talking about the amount that it costs for these things, but it's just a frustration for everyone, I'm sure.
Sure. So sure, and we'll come back. We'll come back to that. Okay, who's going to care for my child when I'm gone? Okay, so this is another thing, a common thing that we think about. So for some of us, we're not here, we weren't born and raised here, our family's not here, we're transplants here. And then we've got other people that have big, huge families in the greater Houston area. And we have, wonderful families. We have a wonderful family member that we already know will be the future caregiver for your child in the event that you're gone. So developing a future care plan now is going to answer these questions. Don't wait. What I say is you blink and your kid's 21, you blink. And so for these parents that are on here that you're overwhelmed and you've got this new diagnosis, you've got this 4-year-old that's diagnosed with autism, or 2-year-old, or whatever. I'm glad you're here, because getting started now is what matters. I mean, this really matters, and this is going to matter on the success of your plan in the future. So I'm just super glad that you're here. So for people that have teenagers, what I would say is, consider touring care facilities such as Brookwood, Marbridge Foundation, Daymark Living. And I will tell you that we have a wonderful list. We have 3 wonderful lists. One is transition and, after high school programs for kids with disability. One is residential options for people with disabilities, and then the other one is educational options like higher education, or certificate programs. So we have these sheets put together, and we'll be happy, we can put those out to you. You can reach out if you would like those, and we'll get those to you. But some people say, well, why would I consider touring care facilities? Are you kidding me? Over my dead body, I'm not ever putting my child in one of these things. Well, we don't know. Okay. So the waiting list for these things can be 5 years. Some take waivers and some don't, which we haven't talked about. Waiver conversation is a whole different thing, but let me just say this. Texas has waivers For kids with disabilities, the waiting list is ridiculous, like 15 plus years, like before you're ever going to get any services. But if you're new to Texas, or if you're a parent with a new diagnosis, or if you're a parent that's hearing this for the first time, you need to put your child on the Texas waiver interest list. Uh, Class is one, HCS is another. There's several. We have a document on that as well. But so you need to get your kids on the interest list. So as I was saying about these facilities, some of them take waivers, some of them don't, some of them are private pay. But the list that we have, we don't endorse any of them. They don't work for us. We don't work for them. And we just, you can click links and follow them and kind of check them out. Just because you're on a waiting list doesn't mean that when you come up that you have to take the slot, but it's just giving you options in the future. And so the next thing that I want to say is that when it comes to some of these facilities and these parents that are staying over my dead body, they're never going to any of these, partial residential care, day hab, transition programs, or whatever. Go tour some of these. Marbridge Foundation, I've toured Brookwood and I've toured Marbridge, and they're both awesome for different reasons, like really awesome. The residents there are happy. Um, they're needed. They have jobs. They're important. They feel important. They know they're important. They love being there. So it's not a punishment. This isn't jail, right? It's not, and you'll see that when you tour them. And this is also a way, when you're in the very beginning, I said, talk about the vision for your child. I'm talking about the vision for your retirement too. Okay. So there has to be balance in your life. You want them to be happy. We don't want them to leave high school at 18 or 22. You can stay in high school till 22 with special needs, and then do nothing and sit at home. They don't work. They don't, we don't want that. We want some kind of program, a meaningful program. So think of it that way. And then the next thing that I'm going to say is make careful considerations before naming siblings as future caregivers. And this here, I'm not stepping on anybody's toes on this at all. I get deep-rooted family. I have a great family on both sides. Everybody loves each other, and that's true. But make sure that you're not appointing a sibling and they said yes in an obligatory manner, because you ask and they love you and they love their sibling, and if they said no, then that would make them seem like a horrible human being. Make sure of that. And just all I would say is just reflect back to where you were when you were 20, 25, 30. Did you have hopes and dreams? Did you want to get married? Did you want to have a house? Did you want to graduate college? Did you want to go back and get your MBA or whatever, have a family? And so imagine yourself if you were 25 or 26 years old, and then your special needs sibling, you got permanent custody of that special needs sibling. That alters your life in a lot of different ways. And some people are totally on board with that and they really, really want to do it. But a lot of people say yes in an obligatory manner. And then what happens later, the reason I'm saying this is there's a lot of resentment later. So where I love siblings to come into play is as a future trustee of the special needs trust. It's a future organizer of care for the special needs sibling. They find wonderful care through other programs or other things like that. They fund that, and then the sibling can be a wonderful sibling of support and a loving sibling that is visiting and brings them in for holidays and what have you, instead of the resentment. So we just want to mention that. Okay, go ahead, Meredith.
Yeah, two questions on this slide. The first one is, would we include that future care plan in a parent's will?
So the future care plan, so really a future care plan is basically we're really putting together the funding. Okay, so we're really putting together the funding of how much that future care is going to cost, and the details of the future care plan and how things go as far as the guardianship and the successor guardianship. Those are all of the details that would be conveyed, to the future guardian. So if they're already in place, if they're already in place, if they're already in a facility, or what we're wanting, I mean, your wishes should be in your will, and what you want to have happen. And a special needs planning attorney is going to help you help you align that. But the future care plan and what that looks like, the biggest thing is the funding. One thing that I guess I didn't mention earlier when we were talking about special needs planning attorneys and special needs planners, why would I possibly need both? Okay. So that's something that we hear all the time. So what I will tell you is the attorneys are the money, are they're the paper and we're the money. Okay. So you have to have the legal documents. The attorneys are who put the legal documents in place, and we're who fund the document. So these documents, a special needs trust isn't worth the paper that it's written on if it's not funded. So when it comes to special needs planning, think of special needs planners as the money and special needs planning attorneys as the paper, if that makes sense.
Another
Okay, Meredith?
question. Yeah, so if the parent is the guardian, what happens to the guardianship when the parent passes away and there's no successive guardian named? Who will become the child's guardian?
They become a ward of the state. So it's that is something you want to have a successor guardian, but some of these facilities can be the successor guardian. I mean, and when I say that, it's every facility is different and how they operate and things like that, and that's why you should tour them and talk to them and go see them, see how they feel or what have you. But it is pretty important to have a successor guardian. Yeah.
And then another question on this slide, do you suggest having a second opinion on my special needs trust? It was prepared by a good attorney, but now I'm concerned that maybe the special needs issues weren't recognized.
I think that that doesn't hurt. Okay, so we often, a lot of times when we meet with families, they'll send us the trust and we'll kind of take a look at it. Sometimes trusts were done a long time ago, and sometimes they were done by an attorney that doesn't necessarily, they dabble in special needs. So I think it is important to just, I don't think it hurts. I mean, and if you're having those doubts, then I would say yes, it's probably good to have it looked at. And and sometimes it's not scrapping the whole thing, it's like restating or amending or fixing it, if there's mistakes in it. So we do often see that, and in the last year I've seen several that did need to be corrected, that there were some huge errors in them. So and again, it's not malicious on the attorney part, it's just maybe they should specialize in what they specialize and not dabble. So
And another one, how does anyone know how much future care will cost?
okay, so we have future care calculators. That's what we do. So we can determine that based off of partial residential care, full residential care, and then also based off of the current expenses. So we put the future care calculator together for that. Are we good?
That's it.
Okay, perfect. All right. So how do I protect my benefits? We've talked a lot about this. Basically, you want to make sure that you have your assets and the child's assets in the appropriate buckets is the first step. Remember, the kid cannot have more than $2,000. Once they turn 18, no more than $2,000, all sources. It's not like in this account, in this account, in this account. It's everything combined. So grandma and grandpa like CDs, and they've been buying your kids CDs since they were 1, and now your child's 18 and you forgot about them. That could send you over the edge. Okay. So, those things might need to be cashed out before they turn 18, or like what we did is we just had grandpa write a letter saying that they're not in the child's possession. She doesn't have access to it. They haven't been cashed out, and she's not going to have access to it. And the Social Security accepted that. So also you're going to ensure that your special needs family members is not set up as a beneficiary on any life insurance, investment, or bank accounts. This is super important. I've said it several times. If you don't take anything away from this entire presentation, I want you to check your beneficiaries of your life insurance, your 401k, 403b, TRS, bank accounts, anything that you can have a beneficiary. Usually what happens is husband and wife do this. If I die, my spouse is going to get the money. And if he's dead and gone, then that's easy. The kids get the money divided equally by name. Okay, that's normal. And if you've done that, you're not alone. It's not, it is wrong, but you're not alone because everybody does it. Okay. So how do we fix this? You fix this by having a special needs trust. And instead of saying Johnny Smith is going to get the proceeds, it says the special needs trust or the supplemental needs trust for the benefit of Johnny Smith. That's how we fix this. Okay. So if you don't have a special needs trust, you probably need to get one. Don't name Johnny directly. Now, another thing that you should know, we've been talking about special needs all this time. You should also not name your minor children who do not have special needs as beneficiaries. What? Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Totally do not name minor children as beneficiaries, period. Okay, so if you have a minor child, he's 5 years old, you've named him as the beneficiary of your life insurance, you die, he's 5 years old, that money is sitting in trust until he's 18. So you have $1 million term life insurance policy, you die, the term life insurance policy pays $1 million. It sits in trust until he turns 18, and then Johnny gets $1 million when he turns 18. And I know your son Johnny is smart. However, no kid at 18 is ready to get that kind of money. Okay, so that's why it's important. So number one, Johnny had care needs from 5 to 18 that weren't being met because it was locked up. And number two, now that he is 18, he doesn't need to be getting that huge sum of money that could really mess him up in life. So that's why we don't do that. So how do we fix that? Is under your will, you can have a testamentary trust for your minor child. So so instead of naming Johnny's brother Jim as the beneficiary, you say testamentary trust for Jim Smith. Okay, so that's how you do that. And in that testamentary trust, the trust spells out how and when he's going to get the money after your death. And that's how you fix that. Okay, so the next thing again is just make sure that well meaning family members have not put things directly in your child's name as a beneficiary. So again, special needs trust, you can have a testamentary trust or special needs trust, which means you don't actually have a special needs trust now. It will form upon your death. But if grandma and grandpa are leaving money to the child, there has to be a trust. It has to be a trust, not a testamentary trust. Okay. So we're going to kind of rush through because we're running out of time here. So ABLE accounts, we've talked about ABLE account. We've talked about ABLE account as a place you can have money. And I'm going to kind of run through this as quick as possible. This does not jeopardize SSI and Medicaid. Bottom line is to have an ABLE account, which we can set ABLE accounts up for you. That's something that we do. An ABLE account is under the tax code 529A for ABLE. We've heard of 529C for college plans. This is A for ABLE. And the person's disability had to start prior to age 26. Bottom line is you can put $15,000 a year into an ABLE account. If the individual is working, you can put an additional $12,790 in there, $760, whatever that amount is. You can use this money for and take distributions for qualified disability expenses. Okay, and it's not taxable. Okay, so the other thing is you can use a 529 ABLE account for college, but there's a lot of other expenses that you can use it for as well. It's got tax-free growth, and you can change the investments twice a year, and it could be rolled over to other family members who are eligible beneficiaries. So some people, and I always hear this every single time, I have a 529C for my disabled child. I didn't know he wasn't going to go to college. Now what do I do with this? And the deal is you can roll the 529C to a 529A, but you can only do it at $15,000 at a time, right? So getting started on that is probably a good idea, okay, to get it over to the ABLE account. But one thing that I want to make clear to you is if you have a 529C, the child is the beneficiary, not the account owner in the 529C. In the 529A, the child is the account owner, right? So the 529C, you can simply change the beneficiary on the 529C to your non-disabled child. That's one thing that you can do. But again, don't keep putting money into the 529C for the disabled child. Open up the ABLE and get $15,000 a year into that. So in wrapping up, so here's some things. One thing that we hear all the time is like, why should I have a special needs trust and an ABLE account? Can't I just have one or the other? And so So basically, you can only have $100,000 in an ABLE account before you disqualify for SSI. Okay, so $100,000 and a person that needs 1.5 or $2 million worth of care over a lifetime is a drop in the bucket. So that's one reason why you need a special needs trust over an ABLE account. Another thing is an ABLE account can pay for mortgage and rent, whereas a special needs trust cannot. So basically, these are some things that an ABLE account can pay for, and there's a lot more. I mean, this is kind of just a summarized list. And then this is a list of things that special needs trust can pay for, okay? But again, monthly rent or monthly mortgage and basically food and shelter is not what a special needs trust is designed for, okay? So SSI is paying for food and shelter. An ABLE account can pay above and beyond for food and shelter, but that is why you might need a special needs trust and an ABLE account. Okay. And then here are, so this is the food and shelter that the special needs trust is basically not going to pay for. And you need to be careful with that, just making sure that you understand which can pay for which, and we can help you with that. So I think that we probably have time for maybe one or two questions. And we're, right, to the end of our meeting. I see Michelle Morris and Andy Morris on here. They're also with CPG. So we are available for consultation if you want to talk about your specific situation. Everybody's situation is vastly different. We do a holistic, consultation. We'll talk to you about, the planning that you've done so far. We do a lot of listening about what's important to you and kind of the vision. And we really build on the foundation that you've already put in place. So we're definitely happy to meet with you. This is how you can reach out to us and schedule an appointment. To either later today or tomorrow, Meredith is going to send out an email to all that registered for today's meeting with a recording and a link of how to schedule an appointment. So, and then you can also respond to that if you have any specific questions that maybe we didn't answer. So Meredith, do we have any additional questions in the chat box?
There was one more about the 529. Can a parent have a 529 plan for a kid getting SSI and any saving limit on 529 that will disqualify the government benefits, the SSI government benefits?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but basically on a 529C, the parent is the owner, and that's not going to disqualify the child for SSI. However, if the disabled child is the beneficiary on the 529C, there could be issues if there was a distribution, right? So in the beginning, the parent is the owner, the child's the beneficiary. Again, you can change the beneficiary to any kid you want, right? So if we know we have, 3 kids and one of them's definitely going to college and the special needs child isn't, then we can certainly change the beneficiary on that. The ABLE account period does not disqualify a child with disabilities. From the whole point of the ABLE account is so you can have more money than the $2,000 and not disqualify the child from benefits. Again, the limits in Texas of how much you can have in the ABLE account are much greater than $100,000. But the $100,000 is the total amount that you can have in the ABLE account before you just qualify for SSI. So I hope that answers the question.
That's it.
Okay, no more questions. All right, well, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. Thanks for spending your lunch hour with us. And if we can be of additional, assistance to you going forward, your journey is a long one and it's tough. And I've been there, I've done it. I have one that's, under 18, one that's over 18, and I do this for a living. Okay, so if you're so if you're ever feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, you're not alone, and you're in the right place. And we're going to give you as many tools and resources as we can so you can formulate your plan that works best for you and your family. So thanks so much. I hope you guys have a great afternoon, and we'll talk again soon.